थिंक यार, मैं ऑनेस्टली ये बोलूँ, मैं ऑनेस्टली जब मैं नई-नई आई थी तब मुझे इनसिक्योरिटीज़ भी होती थी। सुंदर लड़कियों को देख के ऐसा लगता था ओह गॉड! मैं मुझे कैसे मिलेगा? जलन होती थी, मैं स्टारस्ट्रक थी। बट आज जब मैं यहाँ पहुँची हूँ और जब सब कुछ देख चुकी हूँ, आज की तारीख में अगर मुझे कोई बोले, मैं किसी से जलती नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है जो आपको मिलना है वो आपको मिलेगा ही, किसी से जल के अपना खून क्यों जलाना। सेकेंडली, मैं बिल्कुल स्टारस्ट्रक नहीं हूँ। हाँ, आई रिस्पेक्ट, आई लाइक देम, आई सी देम ऑन स्क्रीन, बट ऐसे देख के वो पागल की तरह कुछ लोग ऐसे अजीब से बिहेव करने लग जाते हैं, वो कॉन्स्टेंटली दे स्टार्ट पाइलिंग ऑन लॉट ऑफ पीपल। आई डोंट डू दैट। मैं अपना बहुत कॉशियस डिस्टेंस रखती हूँ, चाहे मैं जो भी एक्टर्स से बात कर रही हूँ या जो भी इंडस्ट्री के ए लिस्टर्स है, आई थिंक मैं बहुत लिमिटेड रखती हूँ, ताकि मैं नहीं, लोगों को ये ना लगे कि यार ये कितनी चेपू टाइप से जो डेली वर्ड में कहते हैं। सो आई डोंट लाइक दैट। आई एम अ वेरी ईगोइस्टिक पर्सन, और मेरे लिए मेरे सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट से ज़्यादा इस दुनिया में और कोई चीज़ मायने नहीं रखती है। जहाँ पे मेरा वो हर्ट होता है, मुझे बुरा लगता है, तो मैं सोचती हूँ कि मैं बस उतना ही रखूँ जहाँ पे वो मुझे हर्ट ना हो, बिकॉज़ उसके बाद आप कितने बड़े हो कितने छोटे, मुझे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता है। मैं एकदम अपने जोन में आ जाती हूँ। सो आई थिंक नोइंग, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू नो योर सेल्फ एज अ पर्सन, कि आपका कैरेक्टर क्या है, एंड देन आई एक्ट अकॉर्डिंगली।
तो इसमें एक तरह से इवेंट हो रहा है, आई एम अ वुमेन,
यस।
हमारी इंडस्ट्री कितनी टैलेंटेड थी,
जी। जी।
कुछ और भी एक्ट्रेसेस
जी। जी।
उनकी बुलंदी पे पहुंचने के बाद भी इतना अकेलापन, और उसके ऊपर लोगों के कमेंट्स के काम नहीं मिल रहा था, समथिंग लाइक दैट, कहीं इसके ऊपर।
पता है, ये बहुत पहले भी बहुत लोग ये कहते थे कि अरे अकॉर्डिंग टू लोग, इंडस्ट्री वाले बहुत सुंदर है, ये लोगों का परसेप्शन है, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली वो हमेशा हमें सजा धजा मेकअप में देखते, बिना मेकअप के, बिना ऐसे स्टाइलिश कपड़ों के हम सब सेम ही लगते हैं। सिर्फ थोड़ा बहुत 19-20 कलर का डिफरेंस है, बाकी आई थिंक एवरी इंडियन गर्ल इज़ वेरी प्रिटी। अगर आप थोड़ा सा उन्हें मेकअप कर दो, वो इतने सुंदर लगते हैं कि मैं खुद घर में कहती हूँ अरे अरे कितनी अच्छी लड़की है, कितनी सुंदर है। थोड़ी और पतली चिजल्ड हो जाती तो ये भी हीरोइन बन जाती, ये सारी चीज़ें होती है। मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ अगर सुंदर लोगों की लाइफ इतनी अच्छी होती तो आज इंडस्ट्री में कोई डिवोर्स नहीं होता, कोई पर्सनल लाइफ और एक इंडस्ट्री की लाइफ बहुत हम काम वो करते हैं। आज आप जर्नलिस्ट हो, आप शायद कभी कभी ऐसा मौका होगा कि आप बहुत रूड क्वेश्चंस पूछोगे, बट दैट डजंट मेक यू अ बैड पर्सन। वो आपका जॉब है, वो आपको किसी ने क्वेश्चन लिख के दिया है कि आपको ये उनको बैठ के ट्रिगर करना है, आप वो करोगे बिकॉज आपको भी आपका कुछ सबमिशन करना है। वैसे ही एक्ट्रेसेस होते हैं, वी परफॉर्म, वी डांस, वी रोमांस बिकॉज दैट्स अ जॉब, हमको वो लिख के दिया गया है। बट हमारा पर्सनल लाइफ, वी आर एज एन इंडिविजुअल डिफरेंट पीपल। करेक्ट। अब मैं ये ड्रेस तो पहन के पूरे घर में घूमूंगी नहीं, राइट? इवेंट पे आई हूँ तो मैं इतने घर पे जाऊंगी, मेरी लाइफ वैसी है जैसी आपकी है। मुझे घर जाके देखना है मेरे बिल्स पेमेंट हुए कि नहीं, राशन हुआ है कि नहीं, मेरे सोसाइटी में क्या हो रहा है, कभी वॉचमैन से झगड़ा, कभी लिफ्टमैन से झगड़ा, ये चलता ही रहता है। तो एक एक्टर की लाइफ एक नॉर्मल इंसान से बिल्कुल डिफरेंट नहीं है, सिर्फ एक अलग रहने का तरीका हो जाता है और लोगों का देखने का तरीका। एंड आई थिंक यही लोग भूल जाते हैं अंदर से, अरे एक्टर है देखो क्या हो गया है। ये इतने सारे सुसाइड इवन अदरवाइज होते हैं, बट वाई वी टॉक ओनली अबाउट एक्टर्स? ऑफकोर्स वन थिंग, बिकॉज दे आर इन लाइमलाइट, पीपल नो देम, बट डेफिनेटली इट्स अ बैड थिंग। आई एम वेरी अपसेट वट एवर हैज़ हैपन, आई एम शॉक्ड, मुझे बुरा लग रहा है, बट एट द सेम टाइम मैं नहीं चाहती हूँ कि ये चीज़ें प्रमोट हो और लोग ये चीज़ को फॉलो करने लगे। अरे डिप्रेस हुए, कुछ नहीं तो चलो सुसाइड कमिट कर लो। बिकॉज आई थिंक मोर देन एनी थिंग आपको अपने पेरेंट्स का सोचना चाहिए। मैं लाइफ में कभी भी कुछ करती हूँ, मैं सबसे पहले ये सोचती हूँ कि मेरे पेरेंट्स को कैसा लगेगा, तो आई थिंक दैट इज़ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द बिगेस्ट लॉस्ट इज ओनली ऑफ योर पेरेंट्स, नो बडी एल्स। हर किसी की, जितने भी लोग एग्जाम्पल वहाँ पे भी गए थे, आज सब अपनी लाइफ में बिजी है। कोई शूट कर रहा है, कोई कहीं इवेंट पे जा रहा है, कोई कहीं फैमिली के साथ घूमने गया है। सबकी लाइफ आगे चलती है, किसी की लाइफ रुकती नहीं है अनफॉर्चुनेटली। बट आई थिंक बेचारे उसके पेरेंट्स की लाइफ तो रुकी गई है, दे आर इन ग्रेट ट्रॉमा। सो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट लाइफ इज़ वेरी प्रेशियस यार, इट्स द बेस्ट गिफ्ट। एंड ऊपर वाले ने आपको ज़िंदगी दी है और लेने का भी हक उसे ही है, तो आप प्लीज़ उस पर छोड़ दो। और वो कहते हैं ना, वो ऐसी कोई प्रॉब्लम देता नहीं है जिसको आप हैंडल नहीं कर सको। यू जस्ट हैव टू बी स्ट्रॉन्ग। हमारे ट्रायल्स होते हैं लाइफ में, हम मूवीज़ भी करते हैं, हिट होता है फ्लॉप होता है, हम सीरियल्स करते हैं, हिट होता है फ्लॉप होता है, तो लाइफ भी ऐसी है, कभी हिट कभी फ्लॉप पर्सनली। तो हमको बैलेंस करना ज़रूरी है। लोग आपको आके तोड़ेंगे, आपके लिए बुरा बोलेंगे, आपको नीचे गिराएंगे, पर आपको स्ट्रांग होना ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि दुनिया ऐसी ही है। वो आपको ऊपर जाएगी तो भी प्रॉब्लम है, आप नीचे रहोगे तो भी प्रॉब्लम है। तो कभी इंसान आपके लिए यहाँ पे अच्छा बोलता ही नहीं है, तो आपको बस इग्नोर करना है चीज़ों को और अपनी लाइफ को आगे लेके जाना है। एंड मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हर लड़की को स्ट्रांग होना बहुत ज़रूरी है, और किसी स्टूपिड लड़के की वजह से एटलीस्ट कुछ भी करना ज़रूरी नहीं है। एंड जैसे आप कह रहे हो, इतने सारे केसेस हुए बट इवेंचुअली कोई केस का कोई रिजल्ट ही नहीं आया है, तो एक लड़की की जान भी चली गई और पता ही नहीं चला क्या हुआ, और जब पता होगा तो कुछ होने भी नहीं वाला है किसी का।
मैम देखा जाए तो फिर केशव बनर्जी के केस में बहुत से सेलिब्रिटी जितने भी हैं
जी।
लगभग पब्लिसिटी स्टंट कर रहे थे
जी
और
जी
ये यहाँ तक कि डॉली बिंद्रा जो है
जी।
उनके माँ के रोने की आवाज़ चैनल में वीडियो चल रहे हैं।
यू नो व्हाट, मेरे फ़ोन पे अचानक से एक चैनल से एक पिंग आया और एक ऑडियो आया। जब मैंने वो प्ले किया, मेरे को इतना गुस्सा आया कि एक इंसान एक पर्सनल कॉल को कैसे रिकॉर्ड करके उसको मीडिया, अभी उसकी मॉम है, उसकी बेटी मरी है, ऑब्वियसली वो रोएगी। एक मीडिया इंसान उसकी मम्मी को जाके पूछता है आपको कैसा फील हो रहा है, मैं चप्पल निकाल के मारती उस मीडिया वाले को अगर मैं वहाँ होती। हाउ कैन यू आस्क दैट यार, आप इंसान हो कि कौन हो? आपके भी घर में आपकी बीवी बच्चे कुछ है कि नहीं है टू टॉक लाइक दैट? हाउ कैन यू आस्क अ मदर आपको कैसा लग रहा है, वो कोई पार्टी में आई है क्या? दिस इज सो फूलिश। मतलब फॉरगेट अबाउट एक्टर्स, उनको पब्लिसिटी चाहिए, व्हाट्स रॉन्ग विद मीडिया टू राइट ऑल दिस? उसके पास काम नहीं है, पैसा नहीं है, ये नहीं है, वो। ओ गॉड, मुझे तो ऐसा लगता है, कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड वो लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं पर्सनली, वो ऑडियंस तक इतना नहीं पहुंचता है जितना जो मीडिया अबाउट वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट। बट टिल द टाइम द लॉ डजंट चेंज, नथिंग इज गोना चेंज। इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर द गवर्नमेंट टू डू समथिंग। उन्होंने सिर्फ एक स्टूपिड सा चीज़ जारी कर दिया, लड़की के साथ कुछ भी हुआ सीधा एफआईआर। मैं हमेशा ये कहती हूँ कि अगर कुछ भी हुआ है, अगर मर्डर और रेप हो चुका है, एफआईआर लिखो। पर अगर जो भी चीज़ में एक वर्ड अटेम्प्ट आता है, एक एनसी नाम की चीज़ होती है और उसके बाद आता है इन्वेस्टिगेशन, जो हमारे इंडिया में किसी को पता नहीं है। जो गया नहीं, जैसे पता चला एक एक्टर का केस है, फटाफट एफआईआर लिख दियो, उसकी ज़िंदगी बर्बाद हो जाए, उससे पुलिस को कोई लेना देना नहीं है। उनको पता ही नहीं करना हुआ क्या है, क्योंकि ये मेरे साथ पर्सनली हो चुका है। मैं कहती हूँ एटलीस्ट एक नया लॉ निकालो कि जब आपको पता चले कि एफआईआर जिसने आपके खिलाफ दर्ज की है और वो गलत है, पनिश देम। इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट द टॉर्चर दैट पीपल गो थ्रू बिकॉज ऑफ दिस। सो आई थिंक इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट, अगर कभी भी आप ये जो प्रत्युषा के जो क्लोजेस्ट फ्रेंड है, दे आर लुकिंग फॉर पीपल टू गेट द राइट न्यूज़ आउट, सो प्लीज़ हेल्प देम यार, यू नो। थैंक यू।
Introducing our amazing women and start the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, everybody. Now, first of all, I wanted to just explain a little bit about IE Business School and our commitment to women and women's initiatives these days. We're very active with a foundation called the Forte Foundation, which encourages women getting involved in business and attending business school. And I'm also one of the founding academic members of another women's organization called Women's Sphere. Now, this is one of our key priorities right now. We have so many task forces across many departments at IE looking to attract women to programs that historically did not have so many women. And we're working increasingly with a new figure, which is appearing now in human resources departments, called the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. So this is absolutely an area of focus and strategy for us at this time. Now, before I bring these women up on stage, I also wanted to talk about one of the questions that I get most frequently at IE, and from students and from alumni and different candidates that I work with. It's about how do I find my passion? Frequently, people will get stuck on what is the passion. And what I try to get them to understand is don't just think about the passion, but think about an array of passions and try to marry that to the opportunities in the market. And from what I've seen from these women, the 8 power women we'll have here today, that's exactly what they've done. So this is meant to be an event to inspire and to celebrate women and women's empowerment. So without any further ado, we're going to start with our first panel. And what I'm going to do is introduce each of the women and then invite them up on stage. So we're going to start with Kiran Bawa. And first of all, apologies for my mispronunciation of the names this evening. You have a seat? Yeah. Kiran Bawa is Managing Director of IOSIS. She holds a lot of promise when it comes to the future of the beauty and wellness industry in India. A determined, gutsy entrepreneur with a mind of her own, Kiran is already going places. Her responsibilities, including her single motherhood, add fuel to her passion to succeed. She dedicated herself to study cosmetology and wellness at London Beauty School in the UK, beauty and paramedics at Christian Valley in the United States, and spa intricacies at Sidesco in Australia. This knowledge gain was then followed by 2 years of R&D in Dubai, complemented by globetrotting, attending seminars and conferences, exhibitions, especially in the spa hubs of the world, Singapore and Malaysia. Kiran also gained hands-on experience of the Indian market with the Bawa Hospitality Group and helped bring in winds of positive change. Welcome this evening. Our second guest is Mahika Meedpuri, who wears many hats. She's a fashion designer, a jewelry designer, a fitness enthusiast, a themed event planner, designer, and a passionate philanthropist. Mahika fashioned her alcove in the scintillating world of haute couture by creating spectacular, classy, and chic women's wear ensembles. She has dressed many of the Bollywood divas and also women from the corporate world in her impeccable designs. She has lent creative visions to designing for theater as well. Mahika has been passionately involved with meaningful causes like raising funds for the Mukti Foundation, pledging her solidarity to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, running the marathon for autistic children, undertaking support for the Save the Tiger Project, being part of Set Beautiful Free, an NGO that helps build a meaningful life for children of sex workers, and supporting the recently concluded fundraiser for the Terry Fox Foundation's India chapter. Thank you for being here. Our third guest is a woman who I was fortunate to meet during my last trip here in India to dinner. We're going to welcome Nisha Jamwal to the stage. Nisha is a lady of fortitude and courage who received the Women's Achievers Award for her outstanding career performance in CSR work. Nisha's life has been one of pluck and determination, where she treated crisis and adversity as her ally to catapult herself into a brand known for design, luxury, and elegance. Her exuberance in the face of personal challenge and hardship even caught the eye of world-famous author Jeffrey Archer, so that he chronicled her real story in his tale Cast Off in the book And Thereby Hangs a Tale, where she is called by her real name. Nisha has worked extensively with craftsmen as a crusader to save dying Indian crafts, for which she has authored 2 books on the topic. Welcome.
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Karan.
Our fourth guest this evening is Raishma Merchant. Welcome. Even as she has had a successful career working with Turner International, Viacom, and Sony, Raishma has always been an avid trend spotter in all areas of lifestyle, fashion, and design. Her business acumen is perfectly balanced by an evolved creative sensibility. Raishma is the founder of House of Milk. House of Milk is a fluid brand that she has created to bring together people who are well-traveled, who have a refined aesthetic, and hearts as big as the ocean. One interesting fact about her career is that while she was working in the media, the time she spent on the branding side of the business was overshadowed by the creative bent of mind. Welcome. So now we're going to get started with the panel. And we need your microphones. One of the first things I'm going to ask is, looking through your biographies and meeting you all, looking at your personal and professional challenges, what steps you think should have been taken to get more women in business? And I really want to hear your own personal examples and examples perhaps to encourage and inspire the women that we have here this evening and the audience in general. So if you want to start?
Very good evening. Really thank you, Karan and Tesh, for having us over here. And this is an honor speaking with such fine ladies on this panel. Well, to start with, about my business is very much a women-oriented business. And from my business partner to my franchisee partners are all women entrepreneurs. So my business absolutely promotes women coming into and encourages a lot of women to work. So I have around 400 team members working with me who are women. And I'm glad to have this business so that I'm able to encourage a lot of people.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Good evening, everybody over here. Thank you, Karan, for giving me this honor. As you know, I'm a designer. Started my career about 20 years back. It's been a tough journey, I must say. It's lots of ups and downs, and you grow every day, learn a lot of different things, and a passion, a hobby became a profession and a full fashion brand today. So it's nice to learn a lot as you go down the line. It's inspiring I think male and women designers mostly face different challenges, which we all have faced. But it's been a good learning journey, and I'm happy to have been a success in it today.
Excellent, thank you. Now, Nisha, what steps, what do we need to do to get more women in business?
Yeah, exactly. So I was waiting to answer your question. I think Indian corporates have now made it mandatory to have directors on their board, female directors. I think it's an important move, but it should have come much earlier. You need to understand that this city does not represent the rest of the country. India is still an extremely male-oriented country where females are given pre-formatted rules and pre-formatted roles to play. So I definitely feel that there have to be more, there has to be more representation in the corporate sector. I also feel that parents at a grassroots level need to encourage girls to follow their dreams with as much passion as men are allowed to. So if you see, I mean, just taking an example from Bollywood, which I found very inspiring, was hearing, I recently interviewed Kangana Ranaut, who was very candid about the fact that she had to actually fight to go and pursue her dreams, and today she's a success. So she was abused, she was treated quite badly, and her father's gone on court saying that I would rather, not have a child than have a female child. I also have a very inspiring, something that inspires me a lot is the NGO Gulabi Gang, which was started by a village woman, Sampat Pal, who was abused by her in-laws, and rather than being an uneducated woman, in her own words, she was frightened, she was marginalized in the village, and when she started this NGO to speak out, she was stood apart and wasn't included in the village. She was marginalized, but she stood up to what she believed was correct. She gave a voice to a lot of women in Uttar Pradesh. Now, you already know that Uttar Pradesh is the largest state for female infanticide. So that is the state that actually needs something like Gulabi Gang. No doubt there have been politics, Sampat Pal has been ousted, but that's nothing to do with us. My point here is, you asked me, what should we be doing? So it's not only city people who have to go out there, form NGOs and have a voice. I feel even women NGOs, women who are marginalized in villages can create NGOs, can have a voice. There's a lot of media people. There's this very interesting little quip which you see on Instagram. It's a woman, using the street as a toilet, but she's got a mobile phone. So that's where villages are going. There's a lot of exposure, and that exposure, I think, there are game changers happening, but they're very slow. And I think we need people like us need to partner with village women and make a difference there.
Perfect.
Because it's city people who are game changers.
Now, you brought up a good point about pre-formatted rules and roles for women. Reshma, is that your experience as well? And what steps would you take to get more women in business? And you mentioned differences as well amongst cities here in India.
That's really interesting because in my current job portfolio, which is House of Milk, I get to straddle two different worlds. One, which is the traditional world, where I deal with artisans and things like fast career or timelines or quality control. It's almost Greek to them. On the other hand, I have New Age, where I have to create a 360-degree experiential brand, which should be available on the palm of your hand. So you are seeing changes happening, but they are vastly different in both the worlds. But I also find that people need to reach out to all the government funds that are being created. The government is doing stuff to encourage women entrepreneurs. There's a fantastic tax haven that they have created, which is 3 years that you don't need to pay tax if you are a women entrepreneur. Corporates are changing their policies. They are their maternity leave, the sabbaticals that they take, they're creating creches. So NGOs are reaching out, creating funds and trying to encourage women to work. We're far from being able to have, to say that yes, women empowerment is happening across cities. But today, 10% of the workforce of entrepreneurs are women. S&P report the index says, that S&P 500 index says that we are, the women, there are 14.2% women in corporates. All of these are significantly higher than what it was. So you are seeing the change happening. And I believe that that's encouraging.
Very good. No, it sounds like the right steps are taking
happening,
place.
yeah.
But
and you
very
talk-
slowly
very,
and
too
very,
slowly.
yeah.
You brought up a good point about straddling two worlds, and I think that's interesting in how in certain societies you have different facets. And in considering in the Indian society being more patriarchal, perhaps, Mahika, let's go with you. Have you found that there's been times in business, in the workplace, that you have not been taken seriously because you are a woman?
I think being a woman has never been a deterrent for me, maybe because I speak my mind and I know what I want and I know the rights and wrongs. It's very imperative today to be cognizant about what is right. You should know the laws, and we know that today. But having said that, there are a lot of women who've had a lot of challenges, and they definitely, it's a patriarchal society. I mean, you look at people saying women are bad drivers, women are a woman who reaches the boardroom is, she slowly has to retort because there's lack of business acumen being discussed behind her. And I feel women always go through, I mean, I know so many people who can't even make basic decisions of life because their men in their lives do that for them, whether it's their family or their men who are in there. So I feel it is definitely a patriarchal society. And we are fortunate that we know what's right and wrong, and therefore maybe we are not governed by it, but there are a lot of women who need to be educated, and therefore it comes to the power of educating them and getting them in the workforce. So once that comes together, then I think the shackles of patriarchy will slowly loosen out.
Very good. Good insight. Now, I think that's interesting about how you're comfortable speaking up and speaking your mind, but you think about the women who aren't in that situation and have not had that empowerment or perhaps the support by the parents, as you've mentioned. Okay, very good. Kiran, do you agree with that?
Well, I absolutely agree to one thing. Yes, we in the metros, and we're blessed. We have a lot of support. I have a lot of support personally from my family, and my fiance is here to support me. When I travel to places like Lucknow, Raipur, and I happen to speak to my guests and guide them for certain things like wellness and beauty services, I actually get an answer that I need to ask my husband to pay up for a package like this. So that surprises me. I feel sad about it, and I really want to call those men, and I at times have done that to counsel them that this is a part of their life and they need to grow out of this, and that is important for us to, as Nisha said, we need to move out and actually start educating the men that the society needs to move.
It's true, and hopefully that deserves a round of applause. And hopefully that education, and you're absolutely right about this isn't just about educating the women and the girls, but also educating the men, and hopefully those kinds of initiatives we're starting to see even from the primary school level here in India. Now, Reshma, let's go with you. Now, in this patriarchal society, have you had situations like that where you're not taken seriously?
I think, fortunately for me, I haven't really experienced it. I have worked with corporates where a woman was encouraged to speak her mind. I have an equal relationship in my marriage, and I hope to be able to create a similar scenario for my daughter, but I see this happening around us, and you see it at every single level. It could be a friend, it could be your mate, it could be various people who will not in India make a decision without asking their male counterpart. However, I would like to know in this room, which are the women, if you can just put up your hand, who have after marriage taken your husband's name? I'd like to also now ask the women who have kept their maiden name and taken their husband's name, or the single women who are about to do that. And this is what I'm talking about. Times are changing.
Yes.
Times are changing, and the entire mindset is changing. So slowly but surely we're getting there. The number of women that we have in the parliament today is far greater than we had a few years back. In 1995, we had, in 1970, we had no global CEO which was a woman in any Fortune 500 company. Today we have 26. So it's changing. It's slowly changing in the patriarchal world, but it would be myopic of me to say that we don't live in it.
Right.
It is a truth. But like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see.
And I think one of the great starting points is what you mentioned about having more women in parliament, and that's
Yes.
precisely it. And that's where you start seeing changes, is when you have more women in politics. So hopefully then we'll have more regulations about getting a certain percentage of women on boards, corporate boards, and little by little. I'm also raising 2 small daughters, and so I also like to see the differences of when I was younger and how they're being raised these days. I think we play obviously a very critical and fundamental role. Nisha, your experience.
Well, I've had an experience. I mean, I've had experiences very different too. 3 of our esteemed panelists. I have felt that India is very strongly patriarchal. I still feel it, and while I do have very supportive parents and an extremely supportive partner, in my working life as an interior architect, I find labor does not take women as seriously because they come from villages. So I often feel that from being a fairly mild and amicable person, as I entered the workforce in India, I was forced to become more aggressive and more opinionated to get my work done. I mean, I'm sharing with you, I often felt the need to abuse in order to, you know, make the men at work realize that I'm serious and I mean business, in order to meet timelines. And you know, when I came to India, one of my first roles was as an assistant set designer in the film Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman. And I was a young little thing of 18, and one of the senior people on set, one of the powerful senior people, made a pass at me. And I was so, you know, so frightened and terrified. I wasn't the person you see before you today. And I actually left my role as a set designer. And I went away to Australia to study further. I'm just giving you a vignette of my life, sharing a personal vignette, to show you that while these, you know, these have been defining moments and game changers in my life, while it made me the person, I have to say that living a life in America there was a stark difference wearing a skirt. My legs right to the meeting.
I miss you.
So these are instances which I was traumatized by. These are instances that wanted me to leave India. I had an abusive fiance. I rarely shared this with anyone. I mean, of course I left him, but there was a lot of family pressure saying, oh my God, it'll all settle down. All you need to do is have children, sab theek ho jayega. You know, I mean, sitting before you, you would never believe that this is the same person who went through these challenges. But yes, I did. And which is why I work so, you know, strongly with female NGOs. And I mean, I joined Gulabi Gang because I saw all this and I was traumatized by it. And to this day, you know, I'm building a villa in Lavasa, and I sometimes find that, you know, I have to get my husband to speak to the CEO to make things happen. So India is a patriarchal society, and I don't want to blind myself to the fact that, okay, so I'm living a cushy life in South Bombay and it doesn't exist. It exists, and I experience it, and I experience it even now.
Well, thank you for sharing that personal experience. You can see how you've clearly come out stronger from that experience. And you brought up an interesting point about cultural differences as well. You're all global, well-traveled women. Any other, and you talk about the stark differences, anybody want to share any other major difference you've seen from other cultures or societies, maybe where you've lived or done business in the past?
May I pop in one more time? While studying in Long Beach in California, there was a rape in my college. And the police, the counselors, the professors were so supportive and so strong. And they saw this young Pakistani girl through the whole thing so beautifully. And recently you heard about rape in Bangalore, yes, where the politician said, "Arey, aise kapde pehnti hai, isliye rape ho gaya." That was such an ignorant and such a myopic statement. We all know that rape is an act of violence. It's not a sexual act. So I'm just drawing that stark difference for you and showing you that yes, the stark difference does exist. And I think, you know, people really have to understand that it is there, and we really have to face it, because India is not the drawing room in Cuff Parade.
Right.
I have a point also, Nisha, respect to what you said. But this is, as I said, mentioned before, that the men need to be educated, and so do their mothers.
Absolutely.
And so do their mothers.
Yes.
Because I think a woman is the biggest enemy to a woman. At the end, I have seen households, and I have clients coming and sharing, you know, my husband beats me up, and the mom says, "Koi baat nahi beta, ye hota hai. Mere saath bhi hua tha, tere saath bhi ho raha hai. Hone do." So deal with it. And this keeps happening. So it's very important we all go out, associate, and educate men. I'm sorry, I have two great friends here. But yes, we need to create that awareness. We all have lovely husbands. We together should move forward and, you know, send this message across that it's the men who need some awareness.
Excellent point to reinforce. Very good. Would either of you like to add anything further?
Well, I totally agree with both of them, what they're saying, and hoping for a change. It's a positive change, and like we said, we're living in a patriarchal society, and India, like how Nisha very wisely said, because we do live in a very comfort zone, and it's a very cushioned life, and we've got a lot of support, and I think it's the other side of the life which needs to be kind of shaken up. When you heard the Uber case, the Nirbhaya case, these major cases that have happened, which are really eye-openers, because we wear everything, we travel, we are just in our comfort, so fortunately we haven't gone through it. But educating men and getting them to, you know, encourage women, that not giving women work amenities, giving women security at their work hours, and making them go out forward and not getting sheltered and curved down by this instance.
Excellent.
So going ahead.
Great words of advice.
You know, I want to add something to what Kiran said. It's very important that women bring up men. And it's those same women who need to make those same men respect women. Because you must have noticed that in India, if a man philanders, it's considered macho. If a woman has a sexual choice or chooses to have multiple partners, she's loose. So men are put on a pedestal in our country, and women, while there may be a large chunk of women who aren't treated like that, it is the truth in a lot of homes that women are, you know, fingers are pointed more at women than men. And I'm not a feminist. So, you know, I'm just making a point. I'm not a feminist. I'm actually being a realist.
Very good. Raishma, did you want to share or add anything further?
You know, I think the women have said it all, and I don't think this is just to do with the fact that, to do with philandering, or the fact that, you know, you're talking about rape. You can see this in the boardrooms, you can see this in companies. A woman, when she gets pregnant, she is not as good enough, because when you look at a promotion, you're not going to pick the woman that just had the baby. But you may pick the guy because now he's well settled and he has the baby, the lovely wife, and all of that. So yes, it is a patriarchal society. It's across the board, but I find change, and I'd like to believe that there's going to be change. And that's how I'd like to look at the world.
Now, who better than these four women to inspire everybody tonight? I want to give you all the opportunity, if there's any questions from the audience, this is your opportunity. You have questions this evening? Yes. Is there a microphone?
Hi, good evening. My name is Sunil. Wonderful stories. Hats off to every speaker. Hi, Karen. How are you? Just wanted to know, Karen just mentioned that 17-year-old blind girl, you know, achieving her dream, and Karen just walks in as a god in front of her. You tell me, you guys tell me, you being a woman, I'm into field of education. How can the generation, the masses, this country can go ahead when it comes to women's education? Thank you.
Who would like to start with that?
The government support, very important.
I understand the government is doing, you know, bounds the job. You tell us an executive plan if you have something.
Well, again, coming back, sorry, to what I know and what's my area of expertise is the field where I work is beauty. And I make sure that there is certain education. I have paid a fee to learn this art. And I make sure the women team members who are coming in, we educate them absolutely to this topic, and that's my part which I'm trying to work on. Well, when you say about talking about overall education to the masses, definitely we need government support. And why I use the word government so that this message goes loud and clear. The wellness industry also has been approaching the government to help us with the funds to take this ahead. That's the only way out. We can move forward. And today, all the ladies sitting here, if we decide that we need to open a school tomorrow, definitely we need funding, and we don't want men saying, oh, there they open a school and they fail now.
And also, I feel, when expats come to India, they immediately enroll into an NGO and give a chunk of their time every day. Now, even if we don't give a chunk of our time every single day, at least we can give a chunk of our time every single week. I think social responsibility, CSR, should be a mandatory part of our lives. Why should an expat have to come into India and do it? And I know enough and more women who spend a chunk of every single day at kitty parties, faffing away all their time. I think all those women with loads of money and diamonds could be giving a little bit of what they earn to female emancipation, education of women, and generally educating women. And what she said and what she does do, which I'm aware of, is employ more women.
Very good. Other questions? No other questions this evening? No? Perfect. Well, you'll have an opportunity to mingle and meet these women later on this evening. Thank you very much. Very inspirational.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Karan, and thank you, Nitish. This was a beautiful platform.
Sound of Music, in which she acted and sang live for a string of 35 packed shows. She has also trained contestants and judged the Navy Ball and beauty pageant 2 years in a row. Save and Empower. Save and Empower the Girl Child is a cause very close to her heart, and she joined hands with the Lilavati Hospital by coordinating and directing this mega event for them. Welcome, Lucky. Our third guest is Ronak Roy. Ronak is the owner of Hungama.com, India's largest digital music website. Hungama.com is India's leading digital entertainment company that launched India's first and largest on-demand digital entertainment storefront. The storefront has over 2.5 million pieces of content across different genres and languages in the form of music tracks, movies, music videos, and dialogues. Mobile content as well, such as ringtones and wallpapers. As a foodie, Ronak initiated the Budding Gourmet website, a portal where you can find healthy Indian recipes. And in the past, Ronak has led the team as editor-in-chief of Beautiful People at Ogan Publication. Welcome this evening.
Amber.
Now we have moms, we have super moms, and then we have Amrita. She's the multi-talented, successful model, but also a homemaker, and has now progressed to be known as one of the most sought-after female celebrity chefs. Her body of work boasts over 100 brand endorsements, anchoring in numerous live events, besides some challenging roles on both television and in films, and she is now forayed into the world of culinary arts. Her cookery show, Mummy Ka Magic,
in business suits, and the other meeting room would be me, the way I am, like just an idea in my head. And at some point, we'd walk away with the deal, just because we're better at what we do. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you just got to be damn good at what you do. Then it doesn't matter anymore.
Excellent. Lucky, how would you respond to that? Women entrepreneurs need to think like men.
I think women entrepreneurs need to think more like women. It's proven that women's instinctive sense and their common sense is way, way better than men, their male counterparts. And that provides them an edge over the men. So I feel if we think like women, I think we do a better job.
Excellent. Ronak.
Okay, so Nisha made her proclamation that she's not a feminist, and I'm going to say I'm so sorry, but I am. I actually have a fundamental problem with the question. I don't think we should be bringing up our children to think differently. I don't think, and I think that's the symbolic order that needs to change. So I'm not going to go into the whole jargon of it, but the reality is that we have to stop thinking of strong, weak, good, bad, man, woman. It has to change. And so I don't believe that you've got to think like a man, or you've got to think like a woman, or you've got to think like, I think you've got to think like a human being. And today you've got to think like an environmentally conscious human being.
Excellent. Points.
I won't say what they're supposed to think like, but I feel what generally happens is, I'm talking about what I observe, is that women do have a tendency to try and be like men. And when they do that, they, I suppose, get overtly harsh at times, overtly aggressive, a bit too competitive. And I just feel, taking cue from exactly what the rest of the panel has said, that we just need to be ourselves. If we are good at something, we should, show that to the people. If we want to speak our mind, we should say that. We shouldn't try and compare ourselves with anybody, because, competition can happen with a woman. I can try and speak better than her. She can try and, outdo me. Competition is there at every level. As long as it's healthy, it's good. The man and woman bit, when we start focusing on that, I feel that creates a problem. I think in your head, you need to know what you want to say. Don't try and be like somebody else. If you're good at what you're doing, you are going to be accepted. You are going to be a winner.
That's interesting. Yes. And it's true, exactly what you said, is that we try to act sometimes more like men. And one of my areas of research and specialization is body language and nonverbal communication. And that's actually one of the things that we teach in body language classes to women, is to actually do gestures and spread out sometimes. In a boardroom, at a meeting, women tend to be very close and keep their information close in their papers, and it's about spreading out. So it's exactly what you're saying. Like, sometimes we should be acting more like women, and it's interesting to hear it, because that's precisely what we do, is to try to empower women. We sometimes, in certain societies and cultures, teach them how to act and have gestures that are more like men, which is unfortunate that we have to take on that, those actions.
We
to
forget that we will get far more attention if we just be like women.
Yes. Yeah.
Men love women, don't they?
Very good. Now, the second statement is emotions and nurturing skills affect women's businesses. And I want to start with Lucky on this one.
Yes, it's proven that our emotions and nurturing skills do get in the way, because we are mothers, we are sisters, we are daughters, and especially in India, we are brought up to think like girls, to be more demure, to be more submissive. And what happens is, in the business world, investors, executives find it very frustrating when women bring that aspect into business. Because in times of crisis, they tend to get very mild, they get very soft, and they do not take harsh or quick decisions or drastic decisions that are needed at that point to make that change. And that could be pretty frustrating for male executives.
Very good. Ronak, would you agree? What are your thoughts?
I actually, to some extent, I think we have two qualities that that do come instinctively. I think that's probably, we're predisposed. And one of those is prudence, and the other is compassion. And it does come a little bit more naturally to us. We have to always think, the female of the species is to think about the offspring, and so the prudence comes in there. Both of these, I think, used well, are outstanding advantages. They're advantages in how you grow your business. They're advantages in how you grow your team. I also think that these same two character traits in a lot of women can also work exactly the opposite, where compassion can be one of your overly compassionate or not with the right level of judgment can also be one of your failings, as can prudence, because it holds you back from taking the right risks.
Interesting about the traits. And that's an area we're really starting to explore in the world of careers, is the use of neuroscience and the trait graphs and the cognitive and behavioral traits to match profiles to certain positions. So I'm happy that you brought that up. I think it's a critical point we're going to hear more and more about now in society. Davida, what are your thoughts on this?
It's interesting when they say emotional like it's a bad thing. Because if you look at the Western world, some of the brands, some of the businesses are so cold, so impersonal, that they're turning to countries like India and saying, you know, what is it that you can add that really connects with your consumer? How do you connect with your employees? How do you connect with people who are listening to you? And when I entered the technology business, as a teenager actually, and one of the things I felt is all about the science, it's very tech, it's very boring, you know, there's really no life to it. And being a creative person myself, I said, you know what, how do you do it differently? How do you make it how do we make it about senses? How do you make it about something that you connect with, something you enjoy, something you want to talk about, something that makes you feel proud? So bringing that feeling into your business is incredibly important, first of all, because it connects you to your customers. You know, yesterday, just last night, I was hanging with a bunch of friends, and when someone introduces me, I'll just usually say, oh, I work for this company, View TV, I'm in the marketing. And I never say that I started it or I run it, because I like to get the, you know, real feedback. And the person said, oh, View, oh, I'm a huge fan of the company. And in my head, I was like, yay. 1 hour later, he's like, so what do you do at View? What is your job role? Like, I started it, I run it. But what's interesting is he used the word huge fan. It's very rare for people to use that for a almost boring technical product. So where women really bring in is, you know, sort of, I always say that sort of men draw the lines and women fill it with color. So it's emotion and nurturing skills are fabulous. It's what the world needs. You know, we have such dull businesses out there. I'm glad so many women are in it and just changing the game.
Bring some color to it. Great. I love that. Yeah, that's very good.
I think you should say that line again. I think that's the line of the night. It's a beautiful line. Could you really say it again?
Say it
It's
again.
a beautiful line.
Which one?
The one of women filling the line with colors. I don't know how you framed it. It was beautiful. Men draw the lines and women
Fill it
with
with
color.
color.
That's the line. I think it's a beautiful line.
Perfect. And Rita, what are your thoughts?
I'm all emotions.
Yes.
I'm here because I have a career because of emotions. I am who I am because of emotions, and I love having the emotions. I love being a woman because I have the emotions I do, and I am not ashamed about it. I feel a woman should feel the way she feels. You were initially talking about the whole offspring part. I want to take a step back when I have a baby. It's my decision. My husband is not telling me. My in-laws are not telling me. I am telling me. I don't want to work for a year. But I didn't work for 2 years when I had my baby. And I was a hardcore working woman. Some people, I don't know why it becomes an issue to be spoken about. It has to be a decision. A lot of men take that decision. I think when they have their child, I mean, I think few in India, but many abroad, they do take that decision. They say, okay, I don't want to work. I want to be a home dad or whatever the name is. And I think it's perfectly okay to feel that way. I'm not ashamed of it. Second point again about emotions, I feel women having the emotions in business. I don't run a business, but I feel that also helps. It can be a deterrent sometimes, like Lucky was saying that, you know, people get frustrated, you don't, perform in crisis. I see it differently. Women, because of their emotions, get a lot of loyalty out of their, out of their team. The way you behave with your team, the way you support them in their time of crisis, I think you get a lot of loyalty also. So women's emotions work in a very, very healthy way in an organization. Yes, sometimes in a negative way, but that also happens with men. Men also have different things. Sometimes men are far too aggressive, far too bold, far too, harsh, So I think, emotions is just emotions. It works well sometimes, whether it's from women or from men. So it's just the way you use it to your advantage.
These are really good insight from your own experiences. Now, I want to start with
I'd like to add here that having said that our emotions and nurturing skills could be a deterrent, the other part of what I feel is also that being women, being emotional, being nurturing, we are also better at long-term relationships. So we hold relationships better, which puts us at an advantage. So we understand customers, we understand consumers, we understand government, we understand economy, and we understand children, and we understand household expenses, which makes us good business women, just being there. So that is an advantage because we are good at long-term relationships, at understanding people, and in the beginning I said we have better common sense and instinctive powers, so that gives us an edge. So of course, emotions do work, and nurturing skills of course set us apart as women and do give us an edge.
Very good. And relationship building, that's interesting. Now, Ronak just had yesterday a major business achievement. And the next statement is about women often lack support from other female business leaders. True or false? And I'd like to hear if you've had, what kind of support you've had in your career.
So I think that support is very individual. So I can tell you that I come from an all-female household. We are daughters of the tribe. We have a daughter each, and they are daughters of the tribe. So I think it would be very individualistic to say, to comment about my life. We're army brats. But I think the fact is that support is hard. Support is hard in wherever you are in the social structure, in the social hierarchy. It's hard to garner support because at some level it's a financial challenge. At another level, it's a social challenge. It's about perception. It's about the fear of failure. So I think support comes also from your own conviction in your own self, and it's great when you have support. But if you don't have support, that should never hold you back. That's incidental. Everybody else believing in me, my parents, my husband being an outstanding spouse. I have a democratic marriage. You have to call the remote. But the reality is that everything else comes after the fact that I believe in me. I'm my own support system first. And the minute that happens, everything else falls into place. Like I said, it's very hard for a panel like this to be able to comment on that fairly, because we're just not living in that world. I mean, I know a lot of people from the previous panel came in and spoke about how the fact that India is a very patriarchal society, and we are. And I think pockets like South Asia, Middle East, Northern Africa, these are particularly so. But the reality is that it's a universal, global, regional issue.
Yes.
It's not exclusive to India. This is women all over the world are facing it. One of the things that I don't hear from women in India is, if I were a guy, I would be paid differently. In the West, this is one of the most common things that I hear on a daily basis.
Yes.
So I think, the patriarchal is unfortunately the way we've been taught to speak. So.
Very good.
Commonly said in India also.
Yes.
That women are paid much less in the same performing role.
I think women are not taking on the challenges. So there's two aspects. I think given the exact same, if you're comparing apples to apples, it's happening much less here. The reality is it's very hard in India to compare apples to apples because I'm a mom and a wife, and that takes precedence. I will choose roles that are different. So I think from learning to the labor, from the part-time to the full-time, from the choices in career, I think that's also, so there's dilution at every level. But but what I feel and what I've seen in my own career, at Hungama, before that with Ogan, comparing apples to apples, there isn't much of a disparity.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, the pay gap, the gender pay gap, and that's a topic I'm very passionate about. And yesterday I had the opportunity to meet with two of India's top executive search consultants, headhunters, and that was exactly my question to them, was their thoughts on the executive gender pay gap in India. And what they were saying is that the level that they're working at, when you're the C-suite, the most senior level of the company, they don't see it, was their opinion. So yeah, this is definitely an area worth further exploring. Thank you for that. Amrita.
I believe
Yes.
that I believe that if the pay gap is actually bridged, that would be an increase of $17 trillion globally.
Exactly. Yes.
I get a little more than my male counterparts. Sorry to say that.
I think so is my industry. And,
Yes.
The male therapists, their salaries are way lesser than the female therapists.
I actually get those looks from my channel people. So I work for Food. I'm a chef there now. The Celebrity Chef is the name. And I'm going to talk a little about that. When I've basically been a model and actor, and I got into cooking because Sanjeev Kapoor insisted that you cook so well, you're a mother, you have such a good connect. Coming back to your point of connect, you must do this show. I said, listen, cooking at home is different, and cooking on screen and then talking is a different thing. I'm an actor, let me be that. He said, then act it. I said, now that is difficult because there you're expecting me to play Amrita Raichan. There I can't act it. So he said, okay, then be yourself. And I was myself, and today where I am is, I think, to a great extent for my emotions and for being myself. Today in that channel, there are a lot of men chefs who are far more qualified than me, far better than me. But I get paid the maximum in that channel with all humility, I'm saying that. Of course, don't compare Sanjeev Kapoor's pay to mine. I'll be way down the rung there. But compared to everybody else, why I'm saying this is that I'm not getting paid because I'm a woman or a man. I'm getting paid more because my show is doing really well. And I've done a good job with it. And that's about that. If I was a man who was Amrit Raichan, I think, and doing the same job, I think he would be getting more than me. So I have a very different take on this. I feel that you get what you deserve. You get, you work hard, you receive the same thing, you receive mostly. And I'm now not talking about the rural country. I know there's different, but I think that all can change if women just believe that they can do well. Now, they are not coming out and performing. The moment women come out and start performing, trust me, they will be taken seriously. We four are sitting here. Four those lovely ladies were sitting here. It didn't happen just like that. Somebody didn't come and place them here. They are here because of their abilities, of their achievements, because of their hard work, because of their belief in themselves. So we are the educated lot. You educate those women out there. Trust me, they'll be far better than men. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of education and awareness. I feel a lot will change.
Excellent, in developing them. Very good. Davida, you come from a predominantly male industry. Now, what kind of support have you had from other female business leaders, or lack of? Have you felt that support?
Well, your question, what do women really think of other women who are successful? I think you'll really get the answer when Facebook adds a dislike button.
Yes.
Sad but true. But the way I look at it is this way. I mean, a couple months ago, one of my closest friends, I've known her since we were toddlers, and she's married with children. She took the homemaker route. She got married pretty early. And I'm not married, no kids. I'm doing my business, jet setting, doing what I want. And at that point, I did a newspaper article with a nice photo shoot, and she said, "What is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? You're not a..." And I said yes. I said, "I want to be the face of my business like Richard Branson and Mark Zuckerberg." And very well-meaningly, she's like, "Listen, I'm telling you for your good. Be realistic. You're not a man and you're not a foreigner." And she's my old friend, and I came back like, oh my God, did I just live my whole life wrong? And I go to my father, I'm like, did I do something wrong? And he's like, nothing like that. It was interesting. So I said, let me have a little bit of fun with this. Of course, first you will feel bad. The second point, I'm like, okay, that's how people think, So I'm like, you know what, let me take this to another level. And in 2016, I took a bit of a turn with my business. because a lot of our distributors and all said, why don't you take, face for your business? There are all these actors, some Mr. Khan, some Mr. Kumar, and I saw how much they charge. And I said, if someone's going to benefit with that money, it better be me. And so I started to model for View. And it was interesting. I think my friend must have had a mini heart attack when she saw that. Last week, I was in Turkey, met Richard Branson, asked him, I said, what are the pros and cons of being the face of your business? And in front of 2,000 people, including my father, I was so embarrassed. He said, if I had your face, I'd be even more successful. And then yesterday, I shot for a magazine, very fashion, very fun, but still running my business, still doing what I'm doing. So coming back to my friend who was like, you shouldn't do this, you're not a man and you're not a foreigner. I said, I'm better. I'm an Indian woman. The thing is, why would she have that opinion? Why would she have even that light bit of resentment if that's your question's all about? The point is, I have to be understanding that she doesn't have the same opportunities. She doesn't have the same exposure, the same backing. She's not brought up in Bombay where it doesn't even occur to us that we're a woman. You go outside of Bombay, maybe yes, all the time the way they look at you. In Bombay, they forget. You're like, oh, okay, maybe they will look at you. In Bombay, they don't care. Everyone's equal here. In my office, the women are way, way more feared than the men, for sure. It's because they don't have the opportunity. So I think women would be incredibly supportive of other women when they are on an even keel, when they're equal. But when something is holding them back, either family, society, their upbringing, their social status, their financial status, it is bound to have that bit of resentment. So it is upon us who have the chance to bring up these other women and say, hey, it's okay for your daughter to work. And that's when we bring chances to others rather than, just feeling negative about each other.
Excellent stories. Thank you. Very good. Lucky, do you feel that the women lack that support from the other female leaders?
As women, we look for more role models. We look for more sounding boards, which we do not find too often. But having said that, I'd like to say that women are so strong in themselves that even with the lack of support, I think they manage to stand their own. They do have a very, very strong sense of power and pride, and they know if they're good at what they're doing, they know that they can achieve it. So support most often is not something that we should look for. We should just work at what we are good at, keep doing it, and support will automatically come. So if we have the courage of our own conviction, if we know that we can achieve what we are setting out to do and we do have it in us to achieve it, I think support will just come automatically because people see that in you and people know that you're serious about what you're looking for and they're just there to give you that support. So I don't think it's an hindrance. And if you're good at what you're doing and if you really believe in it and if it's your passion, I'm sure you will achieve it.
Excellent. Now, before we open up the forum to questions from the audience, I just want to ask you very quickly about the topic of failure and if women entrepreneurs often fear failure.
All the time. Do they? All the time. Don't men feel the same pressure?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, in India, even more.
Yes.
Yeah, because men have so much. Yeah.
I mean, I agree we are feminists, etc.
Right.
Men have way more pressure. To perform in the career world. Women, in fact, have less pressure in India.
Yeah, because we have our husbands to fall back on, or our fathers or our brothers.
I, for one, never ever thought about failure. Never ever. It didn't ever occur to me.
Okay.
I think that is one thing that women don't have.
Right. In fact, the littlest thing that women do, they're given a lot of impetus and applause because it's so uncanny that they would reach such heights.
Right, it's unexpected. Right. Ronak.
So, I think I'm in a minority here. I do think that the fear of failure holds a lot of women back. So when I want to do a little thing and I want to start a little blog or a baking service out of my home, that's great. And I will get a lot of applause. I'll get a lot of support. Everybody will have it on their Facebook. But the reality is that I think financial dependence does come as a hindrance. The reality is, should I take this money? And I haven't earned it. So should I take this money and save it? Should I not just keep it for college? Because she's going to be in college in another 7-8 years. Is it worth it? What if I fail? This is not money you've earned, typically. And so there is a great reservation in spending it, in taking a gamble like that, we are more prudent, I think, yes, so there is much greater responsibility on a man. I have the luxury of working or not. I suspect in my child's generation that will no longer be a choice. But I'm in that beautiful golden spot where I have the luxury of making that choice. I have all the respect and the equality and the level footing that comes with it. But I also have the ability to stop tomorrow and be looked after. My child will be looked after. College is sorted. Life is good. So that actually, in a weird sort of way, because you actually have that cushion, it actually does become a deterrent because I don't really need to take this gamble. So I do think that failure, the fear of failure is also in a lot of homes, and I'm going to step outside, honestly, almost anybody that I'm seeing here. I'm going to step outside this lot of people and tell you that not all homes are as democratic as others. In that sense, when I fail, I will also have to hear it. In a joint family, I'll have to hear it from several people. In a nuclear family, I'll still have to hear it from him. And it's his money. I wasted it. I failed. Now I'm back to sitting at home. 3 saal mein kaun se kheto khada hai? What have you achieved? So I personally believe that the fear of failure holds a lot of women back. A lot of great ideas go unseen because of that, because women actually know where the shoe pinches.
How do you convince yourself at the same time? Like, it is very, very challenging to start a new business. I understand that because I have been in a similar position. So obviously it's still quite a challenge to convince myself, should I have this team? Should I promote so much in the social media? Should I really have an office and have, so me a business development manager? How do you really convince yourself in that whole thing? I mean, I don't want to take money from my father. I don't have a husband to support me. So, okay, yeah, I do have funds which is saved, whatever. To take that challenge forward, it's just so much conviction that you have to go through yourself.
Yes, you do have to, and you have to weigh it. And as somebody who's trying to do it in exactly that format, you will find that you will weigh it on a daily basis. And at some point, you have to be not price obsessed, but value conscious. And that's the shift you have to make in your head. And once you make that shift, you've got to allow a gestation period and commit to that gestation period. And a very dear friend of ours gave me a little piece of advice that I hold. He was talking about the stock market, but it holds in any field of business. And he said, the first thing you do before you invest in anything is know your appetite for loss. At some point, cut. And you've got to just be able to have the ability to eject and pull out, because it's now going to start hurting your life, your lifestyle, and the lives of people around you.
If I may just ask another suggestion. I mean, you've been there, and we obviously look up to you. Now, what is the budget that, suppose few lakhs rupees that we think of like the capital that we put in our business? What are the time frame that we should play off when we are thinking of a new business?
I think that changes from industry to industry. Every business has its own gestation period. But before you start spending the first rupee, you should know when you're aiming to start making an operating profit and when you're going to start hope to break even.
Very good. And let's close the panel because I know we're running short on time with David. I want to get your thoughts on this. the fear of failure? Is it holding women entrepreneurs back?
I think there's a place beyond fear. Fear of anything, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not fitting in. There's a place beyond failure, and that place is purpose. Of course, I understand in business you need to learn to cut your loss, but where does that conviction come from? I'm incredibly proud to be an Indian woman, no matter where I am in the world. And I will tell you this because this story came to my head when Nisha brought up some of her stories. And even my family doesn't know this. But when I was studying in the US, I was 18, 19 when I moved there. Incredibly naive. Moved there, but just a lot of passion. Like, I'm an Indian woman, I'm going to show myself. And there was this party, which was hosted by a bunch of Indians in California, in LA. And it was hosted by some guy from Delhi, and a lot of Indians who were from India were there. But then there are also a lot of Indians who were born and raised in the US, NRIs or ABCDs, whatever you want to call them. There are worse words, but anyhow. So I'm at this party. I'm fairly new to the US, very excited about getting my business degree. And this big tall guy who is an NRI, born and raised, Indian but born and raised in the US, within earshot just says something derogatory about Indian women. And he says that, oh, these Indian women, they come here and something. And I just made my blood boil. How dare somebody say this? So I just told him to get lost. This person looked at me and he's like, oh, do you know who I am? I'm like, do you know who I am? And it went on to some verbal duel till at some point he goes out of this house party. It's on the ground floor in LA, years ago. He goes out of this house party, dead of the night, bunch of people. He has some black Mercedes. He's obviously some rich man's son. Who opens the glove compartment, pulls out a gun, and comes straight at my head, really pissed off. And at that point, beyond fear, I'm like, shoot me. Go ahead, shoot me. And my roommate in one arm, another friend of mine in another arm, dragged me away while I'm kicking away. I'm like, how dare you say that about Indian women? I'm like, go ahead and shoot me. And they took me away. The scene ended, and they're like, listen, please do us a favor, don't die. And the next day, this is the best part. The next day, the guy whose house party it was, I remember his name was Manish. I haven't seen him since then. He calls me. He's like, Deita, do me a favor. I'm like, what? He's like, can you call this fellow? He's like my far-out cousin. Can you please call his father? I'm like, why? He's like, because he's funding my education in the US. And can you please call up and apologize to the father? And I said, why don't I call him up and tell him how the hell to raise his son? And I think I actually had a word with the father, and I told him this is not acceptable. And I just felt at that point, I felt so strongly about all the Indian women out there who at some point have to handle this kind of discrimination or stereotypes. It was just beyond fear. And so sometimes, when we feel something really strongly, I think fear is the last thing in your mind.
Have fear. I can't think of a better point to stop the pad all day. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd like to give a point to her question. My challenges probably, which I would love to share today as you have come with this point. Can I Well, a lot of my friends over here would witness that from the family I come, I'm totally blessed. The challenge was the investment to start my business, and where my father said, I'm going to do some investment for you. And that's the time I was so scared to say that I want to start my own business. I've just about studied. And he was like, "Tu subah utke jayegi bhi nahi office." So that was the first thing, I said, Dad, I will, I promise you. So this investment, whatever you want to do for me, instead of X place, please do it for me for IOSIS. That's where I started my business, but my first fear was to fail. So I said, if I have to go back home and tell him, Dad, I need more money, not possible. That fear.
Great.
Great, okay. If you say so.
All right, well, oh wait.
ये नो एंगल तो बहुत डेंजरस है.
Thank you.
I like the way you say thank you. It's finished.
Are we rolling? I am woman के बारे में क्या बताना चाहेंगे सबसे पहले from your own words?
I think the first thing I'll say, the reason I'm here is because I am woman and I support this cause. I support everything that has to do anything with any development in terms of female child, in terms of dowry, of course, because it again involves women, in terms of lot of things. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है जब कोई भी स्पेशली NGO की भी बात होती है, अदरवाइज आई एम ऑलवेज अ पार्ट ऑफ इट, बिकॉज मैं बहुत सेंसिटिव किस्म की इंसान हूँ और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं ज़्यादा कुछ इस वक्त तो कर नहीं सकती क्योंकि मैं उस मुकाम पे नहीं हूँ, या शायद मैं उतनी पावरफुल या उतनी क्या कहते हैं, अगर एकदम सिंपल वर्ड में बोलूँगी तो उतनी रिच नहीं हूँ. तो डेफिनेटली मैं अपने तरफ से जो भी किसी के लिए कुछ कर सकती हूँ वो करती हूँ, बट मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं भी चाहती हूँ कि लाइफ में आगे जाके मैं कुछ बड़ा करूँ और कुछ ज़्यादा चंक के लिए करूँ. और जब आप ऐसी सारी जगह आते हो और इतने अमेजिंग लोगों को बात करते हुए सुनते हो, आपकी नॉलेज बढ़ती है, यू नो. एंड व्हेन यू आर यंग, यू आर इन योर ग्रोइंग एज, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आपका सराउंडिंग अच्छा हो. एंड आई एम वेरी हैप्पी कि ऐसे लोगों के बीच में जब भी बैठती हूँ, उनमें से बहुत सारे मेरे दोस्त थे जो आज स्पीकर्स थे. आई थिंक दे टॉक सो ब्यूटिफुली कि आप भी उसी तरीके से, जो कहते हैं ना, आप जिसके साथ रहते हो वैसे आप मोल्ड होते जाते हो, संगत जैसी वैसी रंगत. तो मैं इस चीज़ों में बहुत बिलीव करती हूँ. मेरे घर में भी हमेशा यही बातें होते रहती है. तो मुझे ऐसे इवेंट्स बहुत, इनफैक्ट ये मेरा पहला इवेंट था जहाँ पे मैंने लिटरली इतने ये कॉन्वर्जेशन वाले माहौल में बैठी हूँ. एंड आई सो एन्जॉयड इट, आई कांट टेल यू. मैं इतना कुछ सीखी हूँ और जो कुछ चीज़ों की तरफ जो हमारा इतना ध्यान होता नहीं है, वो चीज़ें लाइट में आती है. अरे हाँ, ये भी चीज़ें, अच्छा ये मेरी लाइफ में भी अगर होगा तो मैं इससे कैसे रिएक्ट करूँ, तो ये जब आज लोगों ने इतनी बातें की, मैंने उनसे सीखा कि अच्छा ये सारे सोल्यूशंस भी हो सकते हैं. आई थिंक इट इन अ वे मोटिवेट्स यू. सच थिंग्स हेल्प यू अ लॉट इन मोटिवेटिंग. सो या, इट्स अ मोटिवेशन सेमिनार फॉर मी. वो कहते हैं ना, कुछ लोग जब डिप्रेस हो जाते हैं तो काउंसलिंग करने जाते हैं, उस तरीके से ही एक ये चीज़ है. अगर आप लाइफ में ग्रो करना चाहते हो तो आप ऐसी सब चीज़ें अटेंड करो, ताकि मेरे लिए माई लाइफ इज़ नॉट जस्ट बॉलीवुड. मुझे हमेशा फिल्मों की, गानों की इंडस्ट्री में क्या हो रहा है, मेरे साथ कोई ऐसी बात करता रहता है 24 घंटा, मेरा सर दुख जाता है. सो फॉर मी इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. मैं हमेशा, इनफैक्ट मैं इतनी फ़नी हूँ कि मैं ऐसे दोस्त चुनती हूँ जो इंडस्ट्री में बिल्कुल हो ही ना, ताकि मैं अलग अलग उनसे बातें कर सकूँ और अलग अलग चीज़ें जान सकूँ. आई टॉक ऑन एवरी थिंग. सो आई थिंक दैट इज़ अ कंपनी विच इंस्पायर्स मी द मोस्ट.